At first glance, it looks like the ultimate Renaissance power portrait. Two wealthy, brilliant young men stand surrounded by the finest luxuries of the 16th century: celestial globes, rare mathematical instruments, exotic carpets, and beautiful musical instruments. It screams status, intellect, and worldly success. But look closer. Right at their feet floats a jarring, ghostly distortion, a bizarre, abstract shape that seems entirely out of place and disrupts the perfect realism of the scene. What is it? Why is it there? And why does it change shape depending on where you stand? Welcome back to Story Behind the Painting by Muzea, as we decode one of the most intellectually complex, politically charged, and visually mesmerizing masterpieces in art history, Hans Holbein the Younger's The Ambassadors. Together we will unwrap the secret identities, the hidden political crisis, and the mind-bending optical illusion that makes this 1533 painting a towering monument of Western art.
Welcome to Story Behind the Painting, where we dive into the most famous art works and learn a lot from that.
To understand this painting, we must look at it like a detective examining a crime scene. Let us start with the two men. On the left stands a secular nobleman. His clothing is opulent, with a heavy, black fur-lined coat that widens his shoulders and conveys immense presence and power. He wears a satin tunic, a black beret, and the prestigious medallion of the Order of St. Michael. In his hand, he casually holds a finely crafted dagger. On the right stands his friend. He is dressed in stark contrast. He wears a long, somber, dark robe. While his friend looks directly at us with bold confidence, this man-esque gaze is slightly softer. He holds a pair of gloves, his elbow resting on a book. But the real narrative of the painting lives on the two shelves between them. This table represents the human mind, divided into the celestial and the terrestrial. The top shelf represents the heavens. It is crowded with magnificent astronomical tools, a celestial globe, a cylindrical sundial quadrants, and a torquetum. These are instruments used to measure time and navigate the vast, unpredictable oceans. The bottom shelf represents the earthly world. Here we see a terrestrial globe, a case of flutes, a German textbook on practical merchant mathematics, and a beautifully rendered lute. But Holbein has hidden two massive clues here that tell us everything is not as peaceful as it seems. Look closely at the lute. One of its strings is snapped. A broken lute string in Renaissance art is a universal symbol of discord. Harmony has been broken. Right next to it sits an open Lutheran hymnal. And then, of course, there is the floor. Underneath these brilliant minds is a highly detailed mosaic tile floor. Resting upon it is that famous anamorphic distortion. It is a skull painted using master-level mathematical perspective. If you stand directly in front of the canvas, it looks like a glitch. But if you stand to the far right of the painting, looking down, the perspective squashes the image together, revealing a stark reminder of death, a memento mori. To understand why a broken string, a collection of science tools, and a hidden skull matter so much, we have to travel back to the turbulent spring of 1533. The setting is London, England. The early 16th century was a time of immense geopolitical and spiritual anxiety. The Protestant Reformation, sparked by Martin Luther, was tearing Europe apart. For centuries, the Catholic Church had held a monopoly on faith, but now Christendom was fracturing. In England, the crisis was hitting a boiling point, and King Henry VIII was desperate for a male heir. He sought to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon so he could marry Anne Boleyn, but the Pope refused. Frustrated and impatient, Henry decided to sever ties with Rome and declare himself head of the Church of England. He married Anne Boleyn anyway, and this sent shockwaves across Europe. The French King Francis I feared the balance of power collapsing and the possibility of war. If England split from the Catholic world, alliances could crumble and chaos could follow. Look back at the painting in question, right in the upper left corner. Hidden behind the heavy green curtain is a tiny silver crucifix pushed into the shadows. Holbein was making a profound political and religious statement that God and religious unity were being pushed into the background of European politics. So who are these two young men caught in the middle of this historical hurricane? The man on the left who commissioned this massive painting is Jean de Dinteville. At the time, he was only 29 years old, a fact Holbein cleverly hid by engraving E22 onto the handle of his dagger. Dinteville was the French ambassador to England. He had been sent to London on a grueling, high-stakes diplomatic mission to spy on Henry VIII, report back to France, and try to stop England from breaking away from the Catholic Church. He hated his time in London, and letters to his family reveal he felt lonely, deeply anxious, and trapped. To comfort him, his close friend Georges de Selve came to visit him in London in the spring of 1533. De Selve, pictured on the right, was only 25 years old, indicated by the text on his book, which reads, Aetatis sui 25. Despite his youth, he was already the Bishop of Lavore and a brilliant diplomat. De Selve was a moderate Catholic who dedicated his life to trying to find common ground between Protestants and Catholics. Dinteville commissioned this painting to commemorate their friendship and their shared, agonizing mission. It was a visual record of two brilliant minds trying to navigate a world that was literally falling apart around them. To capture this intense moment in time, Dinteville turned to the absolute best portraitist in England, Hans Holbein the Younger. Born in Augsburg, Germany, around 1497, Holbein was a true Northern Renaissance master. He grew up in an artistic family but was forced to travel due to the religious turmoil of the Reformation, which destroyed the market for religious art in his homeland. He eventually landed in England, where his uncanny, almost photographic realism caught the eye of the royal court. He eventually became the official king's painter for Henry VIII. Holbein was more than just a skilled craftsman, he was an intellectual painter. He was close friends with humanists like Erasmus of Rotterdam and Sir Thomas More. He understood the scientific advancements of his age, the political undercurrents, and the artistic theories coming out of Italy. In The Ambassadors, Holbein used the Northern European tradition of oil painting, layering thin glazes of pigment to achieve rich textures, glowing fabrics, and precise details, and combined it with the grand scale and philosophical depth of the Italian Renaissance.
Why does The Ambassadors still hold such a massive place in art history? First, Holbein mastered the art of visual storytelling and symbolism. He didn't just paint what people looked like, he painted what they thought, what they feared, and the historical moment they occupied. Every single object, like the angle of the sundial and the map markings on the globe, carries a layered, dual meaning. Second, his use of anamorphosis, the technical term for the distorted skull, was a groundbreaking feat of mathematical perspective. While optical illusions existed before, Holbein used it to create an interactive philosophical experience. By forcing the viewer to change their physical position to see the skull clearly, Holbein makes a brilliant point. If you look at life purely from the front, focusing on wealth, power, and science, death looks like an incomprehensible blur. But when you look at life from the correct spiritual angle, the vanity of the world fades, and the reality of mortality becomes crystal clear. It is the ultimate vanitas painting.
Hans Holbein's The Ambassadors is far more than a double portrait. It is a time capsule of 1533, a brilliant puzzle of science, faith, political anxiety, and friendship frozen in paint. If you want to zoom in on these incredible details yourself, explore the maps on the terrestrial globe, read the text in the open hymn book, and unlock the stories of hundreds of other masterpieces from around the world, you need to download the Muzea app. With Muzea, you carry the world's greatest art galleries right in your pocket. Scan paintings, get deep dive histories, and discover the hidden secrets of the art world with our interactive guides. Click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen right now to download the Muzea app for free. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which painting we should decode next. Until next time, keep looking closer.
Welcome to Story Behind the Painting, where we dive into the most famous art works and learn a lot from that.